Thank you and welcome everyone. My name is Gábor Megyaszai. As you have heard, my job description is a little bit vague and my title is outdated, but it's at least 3 weeks old, so it's about time to change again. I identify as Chief Troublemaker, so pretty much my presentation will be pretty similar to troublemaking. But what I'm going to talk about today, a little bit of agenda, so groundworks, a little bit clearing what I mean when I say DevOps, what I mean when I say Agile. Then DevOps and transformation, how to get started with that. You can imagine that size of Nokia, 100,000 people. Size of mobile networks, 28,000 people. Not that easy task. It's not a startup company that you just start from the ground up as you wish. And since last evening I realized that I'll be talking to actual people instead of managers. So I decided that I'll drop a bunch of stories, all the management mumbo jumbo, and I'll talk instead more about our story. What we did, how we did, and where we are. Sorry, coming out a little bit of cold, so there might be some issues with my voice. For some definitions, first of all, what is an agile enterprise? Agile enterprise, I highlighted a couple of words that you need to consider and you need to think very hard, how does it apply to Nokia or how does it apply to any big enterprise company. But what I want to highlight is it's talking about the whole firm, not just one entity within the firm. It's not just developers who are making change happen. Again, my favorite DevOps definition, again, talking about a complete organization, not silos of organizations. And with that in mind, I need to clarify, before anybody asks about that there are these buzzwords, DevTestOps, DevSecOps, BizDevOps, whatnot. These are all just variations for the same. If we assume that we are talking about the whole company, you are either sticking with DevOps and apply it to everyone, or you try to expand it and come up with your own definition as Biz Finance, PMO, HR, Legal, Compliance, Audit, DevSecOps. Trying to make it happen, this word, but so far it's not sticking. But to get started, in Nokia, we realized that we have problems. Especially in mobile networks, we have problems. Mobile networks, pretty stagnant industry. Costs are going up. Revenue is going down. And we have problems. We have a bunch of problems. Even within the company, communicating within the different silos of mobile networks and global services, mobile networks and our customers. So we realized that this is something that we cannot continue. We cannot continue, so we need to work our way towards DevOps. But how to do that and what is DevOps that we actually want to talk about? So first of all, actually it was more than 2 years ago, we started many discussions with various stakeholders within the company that what do they mean under DevOps? What do they mean under Agile? And we wanted to establish that, okay guys, this is the direction we should be going. This is the direction that we should bring down our silos, that we should automate as much as possible. We should get on board all the various stakeholders, including and especially finance people, which will be strange for most of you, I believe. And make them understand what is the benefit of such transformation, because it requires hell a lot of investment. This kind of convincing and negotiation went on for a while. Not sure that each and every stakeholder that I've talked to did really understand what is the benefit for them. So, as we were going on, we faced many times that, okay, DevOps, that means you need to automate. DevOps means that you need to use this tool, that tool. And as these opinions were much more frequent, we needed to stand our ground and say that no, DevOps is not about tooling. DevOps is not about automation. DevOps is pretty much a state of mind that you need to live, that you need to work with. So in order to get us started, we needed to handle buy-in from people. Buy-in from people in terms of, you might have heard about the unicorns of the industry who realize that benefit of collaboration, benefit of the DevOps way of working are actually true for all, and they want to be on board and they are immediately excited about it. So they jump on the occasion that, okay, this is the hype train and I'm going with it. But then it came down to simple example, procurement. When you set yourself that, okay, I need to deliver fast. I need to deliver my value fast to our customers. But then you face the procurement and all different financial hell, where you just need to buy a simple license to make something happen, a little bit of automation happen. And immediately these people tell you that, okay, you can do that. Our processes says that we have to run this and have to run that and have to run some other things, so it will take about 30 days. Best case scenario. This immediately cuts down on anything speed that you want to realize. 30 days for these kind of processes are definitely killing your core business. That's why you have to go around, you have to look for those people from every area, from your value creation, from your value chain, who can actually support this discussion and support whatever activity that you set yourself in. And support in a way that, unfortunately, they need to sacrifice a little bit of free time of their own. Once you get these people on board, you will immediately face another big hurdle, which is middle management, usually. Middle management is the one who is really down to the letters of processes, down to the everyday reality of how we are doing business correctly. So what you need to do in order to circumvent them is, first of all, you are getting the engineers on board. This is quite the easy task because the engineers do realize the benefits of working in a collaborative manner with different areas of your company, with the customer itself. So they're quite easy to be onboarded for such actions. Top management, not that hard again. They are all about money. So if you present a business case to them, they are on board with it. But the pressurized middle, which is formed in this way, from the top down and bottom up activities, this pressurized middle sooner or later will get to give. If you are setting yourself in a journey, be prepared that this pressurized middle to form, it takes months. It takes months in order to get them moving a little bit away from the written processes towards more of an innovation, more of an experimentation. That's what you need to do when you are saying that I want to do DevOps, whatever that will turn out eventually. Sorry about this. And in order to get started on your own little project, first of all, you have to have a little project. As I was saying, a company of 100,000 or a business group of 28,000 will not move. Billions at stake, they will stick to what they know. So you need to create yourself a little bit of project, a little bit of product, a little bit of automation solution that you can put into practice, that you can start productizing, creating a solution for one very specific problem. Usually these small projects are deemed for success. Nobody will object that you are doing this. But once you are identifying this project, you need to keep in mind always the big picture. You need to keep in mind always that where are you scaling from here. And as you are scaling or trying to scale, you need to form both tactics and strategy. Tactics for your short-term goals to actually make your project successful, and strategy that how will you apply it to the most of the company, or at least, or best case scenario, all of the company. And you need to follow the very basics of DevOps in terms of learn fast, elevate, and adopt. Learn fast, fail fast. To get this little bit of project ongoing, you need to build the right foundations. Right foundation here is the people. People is always the foundation to any successful project. And once we started to discuss DevOps, I have had discussions with many engineers, with many developers, with many testers, with very good developers. But they were not the right foundation. They were not the right foundation because even though they were extremely good at what they are doing, they were very narrow-minded. Narrow-minded in the sense that they got to use to a certain way of working. They got to use to certain practices, and they are very comfortable with that. So they don't want to change. So when selecting the people, it was more important to have the mindset ready. Changing the mindset is an insanely awful task. Very tedious, very long running, but all the other skills you can develop much more easily. Second, you need to look beyond the technology. Look beyond the technology that, okay, I want to build an automation solution. It will be so cool. I will have the latest technology. Okay, but what else? Your solution is done. What happens with it? Why are you doing that? Who will be using that? For what they will be using that? Avoid nasty shocks. Avoid nasty shocks, especially when handling people. Handling people, you can't just go there, tell them that, okay, you need to do this, that, whatever. As Sylvia was saying, I'm very opinionated about developers. Developers, bunch of prima donna, I believe. They need to fall on their faces a couple of times. So don't just go there and tell them that, okay, this is the 100% cool and best way to do anything. Let them work out their kinks, let them work out their problems, and let them realize how it will eventually work. Most important, keep your customer close. Keep your customer close because you are developing something for them. You are not developing something because you can. You are developing for a reason. Customers are actually very friendly people. Who are developers here in the audience? Please show hands. When was the last time that you have met a customer? Never. Has anybody seen a customer? Disappointing, but better than average. Keep your customer close because the customer knows what they want. They know what they want it for. They know what they are willing to pay for that. And they will tell you. Whatever you are building for them. Keep this in mind. Understand and practice MVP. MVP as in minimum viable product. This is one of the biggest change, especially when it comes to discussion in Nokia. In Nokia, we are pretty much used for these huge releases. Building a bunch of features, grouping them together, testing the hell out of it, eventually putting it to customer premise, and everything fails. Everything fails because we have been waiting too much to release it for the customers, to deploy for them, to let them play around with it. So instead of this kind of release model, these kind of packaging, we need to do incremental development, need to do incremental delivery, and very heavily utilize minimum viable product. After laying down these foundations is when our story started. Our story started that we had the pet project. We realized that on customer level, on their premises, automation is surprisingly low. Test automation, deployment automation, configuration automation. These are surprisingly low, so we had the idea that we will make it happen. Not sure how. We were just sure that we can make it happen. So I actually called up a bunch of customer teams, 5 to be exact, and I told them that, hi, I would like to sell my idea to your customer. I don't have a product, I have an idea. 2 of them said that I'm crazy, I should quit, I should go to hell, and even better things. But actually, 3 of them bought in. They told me that, okay, this idea sounds nice. If it turns out to be something useful, we can benefit from it. If you are failing, that's my problem. So they did not care that much. So we got the customers on board that, hey, dear customer, we are working on DevOps. We want to know what that is. We are sure we need to collaborate more. We are sure we need to automate more. We are sure we need to discuss with you on a very frequent basis. We are sure that we need to renew how we do requirement management. We are sure we need to renew how do we do the testing, and so on and so on. And eventually came down to the conclusion that 3 customers said that, okay, let's go for it. Do a POC. Do a POC, and if the POC is good, we can scale from there. So I got a little bit of team, actually 7 engineers. By the way, what do you think, what is the ideal size of a project team? Sorry? 2 pizzas. Solid idea, never thought of it, but I'm taking it. Okay. Okay. Actually, I heard concrete number. That concrete number is 7.2. I have no idea how to get 0.2 engineers. Ask the project managers, they know. So I hired two more students. And I concluded that, okay, they should be the 0.2 person. So I started out with 7 engineers and 0.2 worth of student workforce. And we laid down the ground that, okay, guys, this is our team. Everybody bought in our idea that we want to do this. They let us do this. They gave us money, which was surprising. But they told us that you need to make it happen. There is no one else allocated to your project. So we went with the basic concept of DevOps. You build it, you ship it, you run it. All these guys are developers. So you build it, they were quite comfortable. You ship it, okay, what the hell is that? You run it, okay, this might be problematic. But we sat down and fell on our faces a couple of times. Our first step was actually building a POC. Proof of concept, full internal, nobody is involved. Just our little bit of team. When we are building the POC, or you are building your own POC for whatever project, first of all, identify the pain point. Identify the one problem that you want to solve. No more, only one. And you need to come up with a mission statement. You need to come up with a mission statement in what do you promise. I put here a milk carton because my favorite analogy is that you always need to imagine your product that it's sold in a box. And if it's sold in a box, what are you putting on the box? What is your slogan? What is your advertisement on the box? 3 things. You need to put there 3 things, no less, no more, but these 3 fundamental promises cannot be broken when you are building your POC. So, building the POC, we sat down and jumped a little bit away from the usual engineering processes, the usual development processes, because the guys immediately sat down that, okay, I know how to build this. I know a very good script. I can do this in Java. I can do this in C. And I told them that, guys, I don't care. I don't care how you build it, what you build it from, what you build it with. What I care for is that we have a pain point and we have 3 promises that we need to deliver. So, first of all, identify user stories. 1 or 2 user stories. I'm pretty sure, or at least I'm hoping, most of you are familiar with this format of user stories, which includes persona. So you as a developer can immediately put yourself into the shoe of the askee and imagine their situation, why they are asking it. You are defining a goal, what you want to reach this way, and you are defining the benefit. And the benefit, at least I believe the benefit is the most important part here. But I believe it because I'm a product owner, so for me, benefit is the one that sets the priority and sets me the pricing. After the user stories have been created, create the use cases. And this is almost always ground for confusion. What is the difference between a user story and a use case? Use case, which defines the machine-to-machine and human-to-machine interactions. You are describing how you are using the system. And eventually, create acceptance tests. Still, before you are developing anything. Before you are developing, creating the acceptance test cases, following this little syntax of given, when, then, you are immediately setting practically a state machine that you need to build, and you are creating the acceptance test cases all at once, and you are setting the acceptance criteria for whatever product you are creating. And my team, and as I have been talking to many teams since, they were quite surprised by this approach, that why are you creating test cases first? We should be developing first and test it after. But is it actually working? Creating acceptance test cases first gives you the aim you are developing towards. I usually go with my coffee machine analogy that I, as a person who hasn't slept nearly enough, want to have an espresso so that I can deliver the speech. Creating use cases from here, I, as a sleepy person, will push a button. After I push the button, it will trigger the coffee grinding, it will trigger the water heating, whatnot. And creating the acceptance test that, given that the coffee machine is filled with coffee beans and water, when I press the espresso button, it will brew me an espresso. And the guys were, okay, then going with this analogy, if you are pushing the button and anything else happens than giving you an espresso, then it fails, isn't it? Yes, it does. So they could immediately draw their own schema of, okay, then these are the states we need to go through. And these are the acceptance criteria for all the states that you are going through. And this way, whatever code base you are coming up with eventually will do nothing else than defined. Ben yesterday has been referencing the number of unused features, number of practically unused code base that we are developing. And it's a surprisingly high number. Last time I checked, in core it was over 40-something%, in radio it was even higher, over 70, I believe. This means that somebody sometime came up with a requirement that I want this feature, not realizing what the benefit is. They develop something without knowing the use cases, that how do you want to use that? Because if you are going through the how, you will get the why. And of course they created the code and they created the test and proved that the code is working, but the code is working for why. No one wants that. This is what you need to avoid, like the Black Plague. So we demoed the POC. It was great success. It worked like a charm. The feature was just as we imagined. But then we realized that, okay, we planned for 3 sprints, 3 weeks, and it took 5. So our learnings from there. Choose the right branching strategy. Again, developers, bunch of prima donna. I know how to code best. So they started to code immediately. They just wrote code after line, and they merged everything together. So their branching strategy pretty much screwed up. We were fighting with race conditions all the time. With every code merge, we had a very painful process to actually merge the feature and not to break the previous merge. We realized that automation is the key, so we need to build a very robust CI system, preferably on some infrastructure that is actually working. We realized that end-to-end testing cannot be an afterthought. It cannot be something that you do once you have created your product and you are satisfied with it. You need to continuously run them. You need to integrate them to your CI system. We need to implement some database schema tooling, as we were a fairly small team with a very narrow focus for now. Everybody just developed as they felt like. Everybody fixed issues as they felt like. And this, again, led to a little bit of confusion. This was one of the falling on our faces. And the next one was that code tracking is important. Since everybody was just developing, it became a fairly frequent sight in our office space that they were just shouting to each other that, who wrote this stupid line and why did you use this variable, and so on and so on. And no one knew exactly where to turn to. And this is something that you cannot scale. You can do this while you are working with 7 people in one site, in one corner of the 4th floor. But if half of the team is in Budapest and the other half is in Wrocław, much more difficult. But we were successful. We made the POC happen. Came away with a bunch of learnings, and the learnings we implemented and decided to go forward with the minimum viable product. For the MVP, we sat down with our dear customers and identified other user stories with them, now involving the customer, getting their user story instead of our internal user story. We needed to create release and delivery strategy. For the POC, we did not have to deal with that because we were the ones using it. We were the ones demoing it to our audience. And now we need to get it to a customer, which comes with an unknown territory. Unknown territory, for example, we are working in Budapest, but our customer, one is located in North America, one is located in Scandinavia, and the third one is located in the UK. They have regulations. Surprising. We need to pay taxes. We need to comply with different agencies. Who never heard of these kind of things? So we need to create who is doing what, when, how, and with what. Gave us a bunch of challenges. But we delivered the MVP. It was a great success, at least kind of. Kind of, in a sense that our post-mortem revealed that, again, the feature was just good. The MVP works as we expected. But we needed to realize that we don't have an end-to-end flow. We are developers. My team is a developer, I'm a tester, manager, troublemaker, whatnot. But we don't have the competency to deal with taxes. We don't have the competency to deal with NSA. We don't have the competency to deal with export control and procurement and marketing and legal and so on and so on. So if we really want to keep delivering it to our customers, then we need to create our end-to-end flow. Ability features. Since we are going with this you build it, you ship it, you run it way of working, actually my guys, my developers were the ones who traveled to customer site and installed it for the customer and started to use it with the customer. Immediately they realized that they have wrote shiny code. It's just so freaking cool. But the package is 150 gigs, so it's half day to download. There is no emergency user, so when the installation goes sideways, you cannot do anything but start over. Once you deploy it, the UI is a mess. Well, actually not a mess, because functionally it's very good, but it's just looking awful. It's insanely hard to troubleshoot. There is little or next to none logging. So these kind of things made their life a living nightmare while they were at customer premises. And of course we learned that releasing is overhead. Complying and creating all these kind of documentation that we need to provide for release management. And documentation as in general is creating an overhead for us. And at one point in time, the customer turned to me and told me that they would like a little bit of tweaking in the software, and they would like to get some deployment guide. And I had to tell them that, okay, please pick one. So we are a group of 7. I can do both. So we need to realize that how can we overcome these kind of situations. First of all, we learned that the theory of constraint applies. Theory of constraint applies. In our case, it applied in the sense that very good developers were developing insanely fast with our brand new CI, very good stuff. But that stuff was just keep piling up in a repository. No automation took care of the delivery, took care of the deployment. So they were creating our software to sit in a repository, not to be used. Not a good idea. Technical debt prioritization became key when we realized that the POC already contained a couple of false assumptions that we made. And if we are not dealing with this kind of technical debt, it will come back and bite us in the ass very soon. Minimum coverage enforcement both in code review, testing, any kind of verification activity. So you just cannot assess your quality gate. You cannot overrule your quality gate. They are there because you agreed that it should be there. Unfortunately, we made some mistakes here and there with this minimum coverage enforcement. That's why there were a couple of escaped faults, but we were able to handle it so far. But this is one of the worst practice that we usually do. At least in Nokia, it's pretty much a practice that quality gates are there, but it's important to do so, so let's merge it. Let's ship it. We will get it to the customer, we will fix it in a pronto. We will create a new feature for that. These kind of assumptions, these kind of way of working is what will lead to even worse quality. We learned that we need to handle everything as a code. Our product is pretty much a VNF on its own, so it contains VNFD, the descriptor files, Ansible playbooks, Mistral workflows, a bunch of documents. We needed to deliver some actual documents to our customers, test cases, test description, and we started just to handle them as an afterthought again. Test case, come on, that's something we will get it there. But this is not working, so version control and everything as a code. And it's coming out of this documentation nightmare, self-documenting. Self-documenting, for example, are you aware what an MOP is? MOP, anyone? Okay, one guy. MOP is method of procedure. Method of procedure is a document that we have to create for our customers, which contains the exact commands that they need to issue to do anything with our products. So they can copy-paste from the MOP. Very good. So why are we spending time on this when we have Ansible playbooks and Mistral workflows? For me, at least, it was a little bit of confusing. So let's make self-documenting code. Let's make self-documenting things. And let's make automation for creating this bloody MOP from the Mistral workflows, for example. And for everything else, metadata. Metadata is the key and key to everything. My new favorite hype word is metadata, and to do anything with metadata, just for releasing compliancy, reviews, and so on. So first of all, we needed to sit down after these learnings that, okay, we want abilities. We want abilities, we want operability. And operability covers maintainability, scalability, deployability, and so on areas. And this was the point where the engineers, the developers realized that functionality is just part of the success. Functionality should not be more, I believe, in my opinion, functionality should not be more than 50%. Everything else is how and for what you are using your product. The guys went there, actually, to Toronto for the first time to do this installation. They went there when our backlog had 4 or 5 items in it. All of them were functional items. And they came back with 11 new items, all of them non-functional. They just realized that, okay, my code is shiny happy, my product sucks. Then we sat down to work on our end-to-end flow. End-to-end flow, our assumption, and actually I was convinced about this by a good friend who is a quality master black belt, that first of all we need to identify the value chain we are working on. We need to identify the value chain, need to identify all the elements and remove everything that is non-value added. Because if it's non-value added, you are creating waste. You are working on waste. And he was recommending an exercise for us, this so-called value stream mapping and value stream design. Value stream mapping is used for assessing existing processes. Value stream design is used for creating new value streams. We need to do both. We needed to do both for ourselves. We needed to do a design, but for the processes outside of my team, we needed to do value stream mapping. We needed to identify what are the bottlenecks, what are the waste steps that we are creating. And by waste, I mean we can have waiting, we can have rework, we can have excess processing. And we, after 4 days exercise, we cleared that if we are sticking, and I did not put it in the slides because I was shy of this, but if we are living with our current processes, our delivery lead time from a request till it is actually delivered and deployed in a customer network is about 900 days. 900 days, and we set ourselves out to deliver a customer request in 3 months. A bit of a gap between the two. So that is when the design kicked in and started to mercilessly remove anything and everything, anyone and everyone from the value stream who is not adding any value, who is not absolutely mandatory and necessary to be there. Still, we managed to cut down to 112 days, which is still more than 3 months, but anyhow, it's a work in progress. The other thing what we needed to do with assessing our end-to-end flow is getting the insight that where is it that where we are actually bleeding. So with the Center of Excellence in ATF, we sat down and started to work on a model that what is it that we need to assess? What is it that we need to keep in mind? What is it that we need to develop in order to actually have an optimized end-to-end flow? And here the key thing is that it has to be optimized. It has to be optimized because in our example, planning and requirement management was working like a charm. We had daily meetings with the customers. We were very much aware what we want to do, how we want to do. So it was performing above average. It was just a dream come true. But then we realized that, okay, our CI system is not complete. Our system integration is not complete. We have practices that are not up to par. So whatever we are creating in an above average manner will just die. Will just die because there are bottlenecks in the processes, and we could not keep improving ourselves in requirement management because it simply doesn't make sense. Whatever we do improvement there will not take any effect because we have very weak areas. Again, leading us back to the CRF constraints. Since then, this assessment actually became an official assessment within the DevOps Center of Excellence in ATF. This kind of maturity assessment will, and I believe many of you actually who are working for Nokia will soon meet it, because the decision has been made that this assessment will be executed to every product line. Then going to the metadata and going to the documenting stuff. Rough schematics of how our CI works. We were quite happy with it. Software is flowing through, everything is there, decision points are working fine, we are getting the measurements from it, we have every stage we need, we automated the hell out of it. But what if we put here the metadata as well to get things self-documenting, to get even the releasing automated? So we started to gather authorship records, we institutionalized code tracking, automated the release notes creation, automated the metadata creation for compliance checks, document creation for test reports, document creation for compliance, security compliance, and even the review has been sort of kind of automated in the sense that the results and the root cause analysis that we are doing with the review is part of our CI. Then taking a look further, the software comes out of our CI. It's pretty much done, ready. It's available in a repository. Very good. We somehow develop it to the customer, we deploy it to the customer, but there are a sales pipeline and there is a supply chain in place, which, as you can very well see, are islands. Are islands here because our current processes and our current mode of operation says that here's a Johnny, and Johnny will take the Excel sheet and will copy paste here. And here's a Jimmy, and Jimmy will copy paste from here to here. These kind of operations, again, why? I don't have the manpower to do that. So let's put there the meta again. Put there the meta and let it flow in an automated fashion. Let it flow to all parties who are interested and involved in getting a software, selling it to a customer, delivering it to a customer, and reporting on all these actions. So we started to deliver releases now. Actually, working like a charm, and I'm a bit hesitating because we have still a very, very long way ahead of us. There are so many improvements to do, but at least now we are in a stage that we just delivered our release 8.1 since May. So in the past, roughly 6 months, we delivered 8 releases and 7 corrections. And our backlog blew up. I just exported from Jira how our backlog grew, and currently we have enough items for 42 more releases. 42 more releases, and all these items are coming directly from the customer. They sit down with us, they talk to us, they chat with us, they mail us that, okay, this is what I want to have, and this is why I want to have it, and this is what it was for me. So we can come down to a decision that, will we do that, won't we do that? But we have a bunch of items to be delivered. Our backlog got a healthy mix. After the harsh realization of operations for the development guys, they started to work on not just functionality, but all the ability features. All the ability features, keeping the ability all the time in mind. And anytime we are doing story mapping now, the very second line, because still the very first line for story mapping is functional, but the second line is performance, and the third line is operability. This 6 months failing, learning cycle enabled these guys, these developers who had done nothing else in their lives but develop code, develop software, to become a textbook DevOps engineer. Not just a DevOps engineer in the sense that they are a developer with the credentials for the production system, but they do know actually how to operate a software. They do know how to talk to the customer. They do know how to gather the requirement from the customer. They do know what are the wishes that they need to fulfill. And as a daily item, we adopted Lean Six Sigma practices to keep ourselves improving. Continuous experimentation, where we are defining, measuring, analyzing, improving, and controlling our problems. Defining always the business problem, defining the potential goal that we want to realize, selecting the most important one, whether it's a request, whether it's a problem, identifying the priority, validating the possible solution, try, fail fast, learn, improve, and do, and eventually making it sustainable, making it repeatable. This is a practice what we are running at every sprint planning, and we have weekly sprints. So this is all the Monday mornings that we are doing. And where are we now in the sense of collaboration? Collaborations became so heavy in our daily life that with the customers we are building a shared knowledge management system together, which is so far not done in Nokia. They have access to it, we have access to it, anybody can write it, anybody can reuse it. It's in a Jive platform. Sooner or later we plan to open it for the general public. Currently it's a bit restricted, but the content is ever growing. Collaboration, that we are sharing Slack channels with the customers. So we are not talking with the customer via the customer team, who talks to the product management, who talks to the architecture, who talks to the line managers, who talks to the project managers, who eventually come down to you guys and tell you what to do. But we are talking with the customers. We are building for scaling. Building for scaling in a sense that with the recent reorganization, we are growing. So my small team of 7 will become a not so small team of 100, as we were able to sell our idea, which turned out to be an actual product, which became a portfolio element, and now we are making money. Scaling, again, in terms of anything as a service. So we have created a bunch of solutions internally for ourselves that we convinced our management, we convinced the critical stakeholders that this is the direction we should be going. So anything as a service in terms of supply chain as a service, CI as a service, testing as a service, laboratory as a service. These are becoming the items that will be rolled out in gradually larger scale, starting from the core portfolio. But as a set direction, the impact and the footprint of this has been recognized by the management. And we have been selected to be one of the digital big bet items. The digital big bet items to actually govern the company direction towards a real DevOps way of working, to a digital mode of operation, instead of that waterfall or water scrum fall that we are large scale doing. As a summary for my little bit of speech here. So you need to establish the why. If you set out to this journey, you need to tell people why you want to do this. You need to make the benefits visible. You need to foster the culture. You need to foster the culture in the terms that culture is the thing that can make or break anything. People rarely come out of their comfort zone. But if you are moving them away from the good working processes, the usual stuff they do, you need to take care of them. Start small, think big. So don't do anything you can't scale. If you can't scale it, it will fail. It would work for yourself, it would work for your team, but you are creating a local optimization that somebody else will come and overrule you, and you need to take somebody else's solution. So if it's not scaling, don't do it. Developing for a reason. Develop not because you can, but because you can sell it. For this, actually, last night, yes, I found a little bit of video on YouTube. Unfortunately, I did not get the consent to share it to this audience, but if you are interested, I can send you the link. It's pretty hilarious that when a guy is reviewing a water fountain, you know, the small drinking machines, which has a touch screen for unknown reason, where you can adjust the temperature with a sliding scale, and has bunch of features. Hilarious video, very well exemplifies that they have developed a water fountain with the cool gadgets, but nobody needs it. It's not working. You just want to have a glass of water, not a touch screen. And as a last point, it's a journey. So if you are setting out for this, you need to prepare that you will have quick wins, some. You will have quick fails, quite many. And you will repeat this cycle quite many times. And if you take my last advice, communicate 3 times more than you think you need to, and you are the third of the way done. So, communicate 3 times more than you think you need to, and you are a third of the way done. As I was saying, communicate 3 times more than you think you need to, and you are a third of the way done. Critically important, because if you are just sitting in your solitude and developing the cool gadget, At some point in time, somebody will ask you that, what the hell are you doing? And why am I paying you for that? So they will shut you down. You need to communicate frequently your successes. You will need to communicate frequently your failures. You will need to communicate frequently what have you learned from that project. And this is my end.
Okay, it's not the end, ladies and gentlemen. Let that I and Matt give the microphones into your hand. Time for questions.
Do you have any questions on to Gábor? If not, I can start with one question from our side. I will cite it now. You said your team will be now 100 people. Will you use some specific framework for the scaling, the agile process?
Well, there is still an ongoing debate that for scaling the agile process, we should be using SAFe or less. I think the bet now goes more for SAFe for scaling, but less is originating from Nokia, so we have a serious case of not invented here. I would put down my vote next to SAFe, but this is a joint exercise with the Center of Excellence, so they will have the biggest say in how do they scale our results. My bet is on SAFe.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions?
Could you say something about SAFe?
Something about SAFe. Well, it's kind of generic question, so it's a 5-day training to begin with. SAFe itself is set more on, again, value chains, but they are calling it release trains. Release trains and value chains are the ones that describing that what is the value that you are creating, what are the different actors on that value stream, on that release train, and how you are getting the software through this value stream. Sorry, I need to come closer because due to the light I can't really see you. I'm not sure how should I answer this question, but
So maybe what is the difference between SAFe and less? Because we are familiar with less, but we don't heard anything about SAFe.
if you boil down to the very basics, I would say it's nuances. Only nuances. Terminology is a little bit of difference here. SAFe is more concentrated on value chain, while less is more concentrated on teams. At least this is my learning from the both, from the two, but I'm very far from a less expert.
Thank you.
Thanks for the talk. You showed DevOps as a people and mindset as everyone does everything. Isn't that like decreasing a lot of quality because we can't be experts with everything and we need as a developers do everything.
Yeah, let me correct you
Both
there.
the technical details and soft skills with clients and so on. That's a lot of skills.
Yeah, I don't have all, so rest assured. No, when I say that the developers, that the team, and you, I mean that not you personally, but the whole team. So not one guy needs to do everything, but the team needs to be able to do everything. So the skill sets needs to be complementary to have not one-shot specialists, but people who are capable to do more. So developers who can test, testers who can delivery people who can deploy, and so on and so on. But the team needs to be end-to-end. Specialists, I don't believe in specialists. They have their role. They have their role as architects. They have their role as various managers and test architects, and but in a well-functioning team who can actually create software based on a customer request, I would like to see more generalists who are complementing each other.
So you're taking different parts of the like usual development and production chain and combining them into one team and calling that team a DevOps team.
Not yet, because if you are just combining them to a DevOps to a team, you will have again fairly possibly a bunch of specialists in one team. You need to develop these specialists to be not a one-shot people. So as I was saying, the developers in my team became testers as well. They became delivery people. They became operations people. Not all of them, some of them. Some of them became testers. Some of them became ops people. Yes, you are combining them to begin with, but then you are developing them. And once you are progressing with this kind of development, once you have complementing skill set within the team, once you can afford that one people from your team goes on vacation, then you have a DevOps team.
Okay, can you tell anything about the kind of application you were doing? Because I'm not really sure that it is applicable to the work we do at Nokia.
I didn't show about the application because there are some IPR related stuff ongoing with legal and compliance, so they asked me not to show too much to wide audience. The application we are delivering and creating is automation solution for software delivery, so supply chain automation, software deployment, software configuration, workflow orchestration for automated acceptance testing, and workflow orchestration for gathering and getting feedback from various network elements that are running in the customer network. It's in a form of a VNF, contains, I'm not sure anymore because I got lost track on the numbers, but last time it was 19 various containers, bunch of automation solution utilizing third-party tools, including JFrog Artifactory, including Cloud-based Jenkins, including a ton of Ansible and Mistral scripts.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
Does anyone have any more questions? There's nothing on our side.